Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you guys had a good weekend. I'm just trying to get to the chat so that I could actually see. All right, folks. So I hope you had a good weekend. A little bit of information about what we're going to do today so that you understand what's happening. Today, we're going to go over 84 and 86. After we go over 84 and 86, we are going to review for the test, answer any questions you have. If you have anything you want me to go over specifically that you don't understand, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to go over some of the concepts that I feel that we could touch on a little bit better. If I need to record a video later, if I feel that there are some things I need to go over with you, I will take care of that. And otherwise, if you feel that you need to have a review session, let me know and I will set one up. But I'll be posting the test tonight. Okay. Hi, Jacob. Jake, I don't know why I said that, but thank you for joining us. Jake did a great job last week controlling certain commentary. I honestly feel that since we've gone to this system, we've had a lot less in terms of trolling and interruptions, and it has made for a much more productive class. Okay. Hey, Ryan. So first thing I do want to let you know, guess what, guys? Tomorrow there is no class. Since you have the assessment that you're going to do, tomorrow is going to be your assessment day. Okay, so no class tomorrow. Your assessment day is tomorrow, and we will resume on Wednesday with the brand new unit. Okay? All right, so let's start with going over activity 84. And if anyone has any questions, go ahead and post. I will be sending an email out within the next day or two to anyone who's missing an assignment. I'm going to be telling you exactly what assignment you're missing so that you can make sure you take care of that, because some of you are doing the new assignments, but you're not going back and doing your old assignments. So, okay. All right, so for activity 84, the first question is choose one of the safety features described in the reading. Use the term inertial force and deceleration to describe how the safety feature helps keep people safe in a collision. Okay, this is a question that would take a lot of time to go through. Okay, Aaron is asking if we've started yet. Okay, and I guess maybe he retracted. Just please send a hello or emoji if you can hear me and you can see me, so that I can make sure you guys are actually able to pay attention. Awesome. Okay, so the first question, there are a lot of different opinions that could be stated. So I'm going to go ahead. Okay, airbags reduce the deceleration of a person experiences during a collision. They help by spreading the deceleration force over a large area, which reduces pressure on your body. That is an awesome, awesome description. Yes, you are absolutely correct, Siri. Okay, as Alexa said, go Siri. So, okay, your seat belt also reduces your deceleration by a factor of 10. Okay. There are a lot of different ones. Okay, that was a great example. I'm not going to get into the other ones. You have the crumple zones in the car and everything like that, but we're not going to get into all of them. So as a collision is about to happen, if you had enough time to choose between hitting a large haystack or a telephone pole, which one would you choose to hit and why? Okay, I know it says explain in terms of force and deceleration, but I'm not going to make you do that. But which one would you pick? And in just a couple of words, why would you pick that one? The large haystack. Okay. Yes. All right. In correlation with serious answer. What else? What can you tell me about a telephone pole and hay? If you ran into a haystack, would it now, if you were running and you ran into a haystack, would it hurt as much as if you ran into a telephone pole? Hay costs less. That's funny. It hurts less. If you were to run into a haystack, your car would probably wrap around the pole depending on how fast you were going, but you would definitely have a great deal more impact. Okay. Think about, for example, it's softer than a telephone pole. There's more give than a telephone pole. A telephone pole is rooted to the floor. So a telephone pole is designed to not have give. I mean, think about it. There's wind. There's, if you knock out a telephone pole, you're knocking out, service for people in a neighborhood. So if you're knocking out a telephone pole, it's going to cause problems. So they design the pole so that you can't just easily just knock it out. Okay, but a haystack, it has give. It's not rooted to the ground, and it doesn't apply as much force on you as the telephone pole would. Okay, and the telephone pole is a lot harder. Hay is malleable. A telephone pole is not. Okay, in fact, I actually have a bag of hay here. I bought it this morning. I'll show you. So if you look at the bag of hay, for example, and now this is not a hay bale that's open, but it's got a lot of give, and this is within the bag. Okay, if you were to have it just in a pile and you were to push through it, it would scatter. Okay, but a telephone pole, now this is not a telephone pole, this is an easel, but telephone pole is metal, that doesn't have any give. Okay, so you would experience a lot more give in a haystack than the telephone pole. All right, moving on to number 3. In the accident mentioned in Activity 73, Choosing a Safe Vehicle, Noah's family car had old tires that were worn down. Explain how this could have contributed to the car accident. How could that contribute to a car accident? They had less traction. That is absolutely correct, and that's a good word, traction. If you look at a vehicle that has brand new tires, the brand new tires have a lot of traction. They have grip. You can see that the surface is designed to grip. But when you're looking at a car whose tires are worn down, it's a lot smoother. It's not going to grip the floors easily. They're not going to have traction. That is correct, Sabrina. Worn down tires create less friction there's less friction. The car won't stop as easily. So the reflection, and I saw some really good answers for this. Since the 1920s, the rate of fatalities per billion miles traveled has dropped steadily. However, the rate has been about the same for the past 20 years. Why? Why do you think, let's go first from 1920s to about the year 2000, or let's even go further and say 1990. Okay, we had a steady decline. Why was there a steady decline? Why was there a steady decline? And you can also simultaneously look at the next question, which is between, let's say, 1990 to 2000 to now. Why did the rate of fatalities stay constant? Why hasn't it diminished further? Manufacturers improve their work over time as a means to ensure safe travel for a growing market. That is a well put answer. You are absolutely correct. Okay, manufacturers, they improve their work. Not only did they improve the quality of the vehicle itself, but they also improved on safety features. Okay, when I was a kid in the 70s, we did not have to wear seatbelts. Seatbelts now are a staple in every portion of the vehicle, the front seat, the back seat, and you're supposed to wear a seatbelt. Airbags used to be that airbags were only in the driver's side. Then airbags were in the driver and passenger side. Now they have airbags in the driver's side, the passenger side, side airbags. There are airbags in different, depending on the vehicle, in different parts of the vehicle. So the increase in safety, safety materials in a car, crumple zones and all the rest of it, improvement on how tires are made, have increased the safety in driving and therefore decreased the number of fatalities over time. But over the last 20 years, now we're dealing with cell phones. We're dealing with, bad drivers in general. And we call them bad drivers because not only is speeding an issue, but use of cell phone, distracted driving. And so now we see a rise in other types of safety features that people that would consider convenience, but they're actually safety features. For example, Bluetooth in a car. If you're going to talk on a phone, use Bluetooth. Okay, and you guys know recently I was rear-ended. One of the features in my rental car that I thought was great was, in addition to being able to place a phone call over Bluetooth and not having to actually touch anything in the vehicle, other than one button that you press on the steering wheel, you can actually verbalize your commands, call this person, call that person. It also had a feature that when you received the text message, it asked you if you wanted to hear the text message and if you wanted to respond, and you could respond verbally without having to actually type anything. So unfortunately, there are people who think something is urgent and therefore won't wait until they're stopped or parked. They're including new features for that to help reduce the number of fatalities, because now here's a feature that allows you to still accomplish that task that you feel is very urgent, but you don't have to look away from the road while you're doing it. Okay. If you have any questions, go ahead and document them. I'm going to go on to activity 86. And for those of you that came later, don't forget, we have no class tomorrow because since I'm posting the test this evening, I'm giving you tomorrow what normally would be class time to do the test. So we'll reconvene starting the new unit on Wednesday. Okay. All right. So question number 1 for activity 86, excuse me. How did you rank the stability of the carts that had 3 different centers of mass? Okay, so we had the empty cart, the cart with the low center of mass stability, and the car with the high center of mass stability. Which one was the least stable? Oh, well, actually, the answers are right behind me. So we see the empty cart was very stable. The loaded cart with the low center of balance was also very stable. The loaded cart with the high center of balance, it flipped off the track. Okay, so number 2, how did a high center of mass affect the cart's motion after it hit the barrier? Well, as the cart was moving, okay, if it had a high center of mass, so I'm going to go ahead and just switch it out, okay, which means the metal piece was on the top. If it had a high center of mass, once that cart hit the barrier, inertia wanted to make the cart continue to go. Because the center of mass was higher, it wasn't rooted as far down, so you actually saw the cart tilt. In some cases, it flipped off the track completely. In some cases, it flipped like this, okay, or it had a bounce where one of the tires wound up off the track, okay? So, the high center of balance made it much more unstable, and we saw the cart flip. Imagine 3 identical barrels, one empty, one full of water, and one half full of water. Make a sketch of the barrels in your science notebook. Some of you answered the question. Some of you avoided it because you couldn't sketch. Some of you sent me a sketch in an email. And some of you, what I thought was really good was you actually took A and you said, well, the X would be placed here, and B, the X would be placed here. So you verbalized where you would put the X, okay? So in A, which was the empty container, the X would be placed in the center of the container, right in the middle. In B, the X would be placed at the lower in the container, because since it was half full, the X would be placed in the middle of where it was full. And for C, it was placed in the middle again, because the X was placed in the center of the total mass. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so as you can see, in both the empty and full container, the X was placed in the same location because they have the same mass throughout. Since they have the same mass throughout, the X is placed in the center of the mass. Since this mass is lower, because up here has a much lower mass than down here, since this mass here is lower, it's placed in the center of that lower mass, and therefore the one that's half full has the lowest center of gravity. Both of these have the same center of gravity because it's throughout. Now, if there was a way to have a container where the bottom was empty and the top was full, in other words, the reverse of the center, then the X would be up here. In other words, it would have a higher center of mass. Now, the reason that is important is because that is the scenario that we have here. The metal is up here, but there's a plastic much similar to this, which has very little mass and has much, much less mass when you compare it to the metal that's down here. So the center of mass, because down here has far less mass than up here, the center of mass is shifted toward the top, much like that container that I said, if it was reversed and there was maybe like a platform, the bottom was empty, the top was full. In that particular case, the center of mass would be up higher, and that container would be more than likely to tip over. Okay, so the barrel that has the most mass, okay, is C, the one that's completely full. The label that with the lowest center of mass is B. And again, because the majority of the mass is closer to the bottom, the center of that mass is closer to the bottom. And D, the barrel that's easiest to tip over, okay, that would be the least stable. That would be A, because its total mass is less. There's less mass in the container, therefore there's less mass for gravity to act on, so that container is going to tip over more. Even though the center of mass is the same as the one with the most mass, because there's more mass, gravity is acting on that one more. Okay? So, your friends want to haul some lumber in their station wagon. His parents are not sure whether to put the lumber on the wagon or tie it to the roof rack? What advice would you give them, and explain it in terms of center of mass? Would you put it on the roof or in the wagon? Roof or in the wagon? I hope I did not lose you guys in the chat. You put it in the wagon. That is absolutely correct. And the reason you put it in the wagon is because it would create a low center of mass for the vehicle. Okay, the roof makes the center of mass higher. That is absolutely correct. And if the center of mass is higher, the vehicle is more likely to tip over. And it's obviously much safer. Oh, the chats are not processing? Oh, that's a shame. Why do you think pickups and SUVs tend to roll over more often than passenger cars of a similar mass? Okay, explain in terms of center of mass. Again, I believe I mentioned this in class. The center of mass of an SUV is much higher. The tires of an SUV tend to be bigger, and as a result, since the center of mass is higher, it makes it more likely to tip over. It's the same scenario as the cart, once again. Okay, so if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm just going to go over a couple concepts I feel that you should know for the test. If you want a review, please tell me. If you feel that you would like to ask a few questions and you want a private review, I could do one on Twitch, or I could probably record something or do a Zoom one where you could actually talk back and forth. But of course, there's certain guidelines that would have to be followed. And you would have to log in with your name. It would not be a nickname. I would not let anyone enter with a nickname. Okay. So if you're rolling a steel ball down a ramp, okay, from various heights, for each trial, you're measuring and recording the release height and the distance the ball travels away from the ramp. What is the independent variable? Well, if I did a Zoom, it would be per 2 classes instead of 3, number one. And number two, if I did it, you would have to log in with your name, no nicknames. Okay, and I would block you if you decided to act up. I'm not going to take anyone who's going to sit there and act up. Okay, and it would go towards a conduct grade. The whole point of that session would be to review for the test if anyone has any questions. If you want a review, send me a private message. You can send it to me on our Science with Mama J Instagram page. You can send it in Reminder Edsby. I'll be on Edsby today on and off all afternoon. So if you want a review, I'll schedule one. Okay. So what is the independent variable? So you have a ramp. Okay. You're dropping the ball from various heights, so A, B, C. You're dropping the ball, and then you're watching how far it travels, okay, away from the ramp to get to the ground. What is the independent variable? First of all, if you could describe, yes, the release height. Okay, if you could describe an independent variable, what is an independent variable? And what is a dependent variable? Okay, the thing you're changing is the independent variable. That is correct. And the dependent variable is what? the result. Perfect. So dependent is the result and the independent is what you are manipulating. Good, 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 good. So, all right, if I am pulling, if you're in a tug of war, okay, that is absolutely correct, Siri. Great answer. Good. Okay, good. You guys are remembering the independent and dependent. That makes me happy. All right, so if you guys are in a tug of war, okay, and you're pulling two items, okay, let's say a spring, and that item in the center is not moving. So let's say you guys saw me do the two blocks with the spring. So I'm pulling them at the same force and the block in the center is not moving. What can you tell me about the reading of the force on the left spring and the right spring? They're equal. That is correct. That is perfect. So if I attach one of those springs to a block and then I pull the other spring, so now there's a block and there's a spring attached to that block, and then that block is rooted. And then I have that spring attached to a cart, and then I have the other spring and I'm pulling this spring. So it's a one-sided tug of war type of thing. Okay? And I pull it to a force and that block is not moving. What can you tell me about the force on the spring that's between the block and the cart? Okay, if you need me to draw that, I'll draw it for you. Did I get you this time? Anybody need a visual? You need a visual? Okay. So, you have something that is rooted, a block of some sort. Then you have the spring that's attached, and it's attached to a cart with wheels, and then that spring is being pulled that way. Now this one, let's say, has a force of 5 newtons, and this cart is not moving. What can you tell me about the force that this spring rates? It is even. Yes, it is still equal. That is correct. All right, I have one more question for you. You have an object that is moving this way, and a brief puff of air, just a brief puff, not a sustained puff, is coming from this direction. What's going to happen to this object when it comes into contact with that puff of air? How's it going to move? I'm not sure if it's a processing issue or if no one is sure. Are you going to change speed and direction, just speed, just direction, or both? Both speed and direction, that is correct. It's going to turn this way and slow down, okay? Because since it's moving in this direction, a force coming down, even though it's coming at an angle, a force coming down is going to cause it to slow down, and it's going to cause it to change direction. Now, if we have the same scenario, but instead we had a force coming from this direction, it's going to continue to move in the upward trajectory, but I mean, it'll shift slightly. And because it is a brief puff of air, it's going to have a slightly increased and speed that you're going to maintain. Okay. Correct, both. Okay, good. Good. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I've pretty much gone over everything I think I can go over. Like I said, I am going to post the test today. It'll be closer to the evening time. If you have a questions in regards to the test, if you have something you don't quite understand, let me know and I'll do a review session. You have one shot for the test. It's not like your assignments where you can go in and redo the assignment. So you have one shot for the test. If you don't do well on the test, once the window for this test closes, I will open the retake window. Okay, so you'll have, and the retake is posted in a separate column than the original test. So you'll take your original test, and like I did before, I'll close the window for the test, the retake, and that'll close Friday night. The retake window will open Friday night or Saturday morning, and that'll stay open for several days. You take it when you're comfortable, but by the end of the window, which will be at some point during next week, I'm not 100% sure. I may not even open it over the weekend. I may open it back up on Monday. Once you do the retake, I'll see that there are two scores in the columns. Whichever one is higher is the one I will take. So I will just drop the other test from your average. Okay, same way as I did before. You are not required to do the retake. So if you get a good grade on the test, you do not have to do a retake. Okay? If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I'll stay on for a few minutes after I end the stream. But otherwise, have a fabulous day, and I will see you tomorrow.